Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today we're going to be flipping through the Alien Archive 2 for the Starfinder role-playing game. This book was sent to me by Paizo Publishing, however this isn't a paid endorsement. They are not having any say or approval over what the content of this video is. They just wanted to send this out basically for review purposes and to help raise awareness for the Starfinder role-playing game. Something that I am very happy to do because personally I really love the game. I love the rule set, I love the system, and I really enjoy the campaign setting and everything else. So this is a game that I really enjoy, so anything I can do to help promote it, I will absolutely do. Alien Archive 2 is, as the title suggests, the second monster supplement to come out for the Starfinder role-playing game. At the time that I'm recording this, Alien Archive 3 has been announced, although I can't remember what the release date for that is. My understanding is that they're looking to do regular installments of these books. So we'll just go ahead, sort of flip through, and I guess for the purposes of spoilers, I suppose, I think that this is a great book. I love monster books in general, and the Alien Archive and Alien Archive 2 are just really, obviously going to be very useful for game masters looking to run a game. So on the inside we have the same sort of, inside of the cover art as we've had in all the other books, showing the Packed World system, which again is just really nice visual flair versus a lot of role-playing game books that may just have like blank space there, but really good use of those inside covers. And like I said, we're just going to sort of flip through and show some of what I think are some of my favorite creatures to have in this book. Another thing that I like about the Alien Archive books in general, and again, I'm not as familiar with the Pathfinder bestiaries or anything like that, but each creature has sort of a symbol that, just at a quick visual glance, lets you know primarily what the best way to use the creature is. So there's combatants, experts, and spellcasters. Combatants are obviously good at physical fighting. Experts are, they're good at certain types of skills or abilities, and then you have spellcasters, which again is pretty self-explanatory. And just these, little symbols here help quite a bit actually when looking to try to put together some sort of an encounter. So I really like that they do that. It's just a nice little, again, visual thing that you have here. So, like I said, we'll just sort of flip through. And again, the artwork is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things, again, that I like about these Alien Archive books is they actually have quite a bit of information on the creatures themselves. It's not just necessarily here's their stats and let's move on to the next monster. There's actually some information on them in terms of, what the history of that type of creature is, where they may be found, their tactics. There's just a lot of really great information in here. And several of them will even have additional entries for things like if parts of their, bodies or things that are associated with them can be used for equipment, or even in some cases they have stats for you to play them as a player character. So again, just really cool stuff. Some creatures also have what are referred to as template graphs, and you can just sort of apply these to creatures to sort of customize your monsters a little bit if you want to have something that takes on this like zombie template in this particular example here. So we'll just go through, and the artwork is again really fantastic. And where I'm not as familiar with like science fiction or science fantasy in terms of like aliens and creatures, I actually find these books way more useful than some like fantasy RPG monster books, just because there's just so many like interesting, unique creatures in here that you kind of want to find something to do with. For example, you have the Arcwind Gazelle, and they live on a planet where essentially on their planet they're effectively immortal. They have this like calming aura, and they're really sought after by like poachers or people trying to smuggle them off the planet in order to sell them and or breed them. And it's just some really interesting stuff that they have, again, for information. And that's something that you could base a story around and a small little side quest adventure on, and do so easily. And of course here we also have equipment that you can make from parts of the creature's body as well. So just go through, like I said, we'll just sort of flip through everything here. again, just really, really cool stuff. And here's an example of one of the creatures that you can actually have as a player character race. So you have the uplifted bear. They're basically like an awakened bear, essentially. But it does give their racial traits if a player wants to play them. And there's a lot of creatures like this in this book. So you can, again, sort of use these to allow your players to just play something a little different, I guess. You also have things like the Body Snatcher Slime, which honestly reminds me of the Brain Slugs from Futurama. And there's a few things actually in this book that seem to be references to other things, which, again, I always enjoy. Another thing that I really like about this as well is that this particular Alien Archive has some creatures taken straight from the H.P. Lovecraft, like the Cthulhu mythos, or creatures from like his stories, including Color Out of Space. I'm pretty sure that was a Lovecraft story. And another cool thing that I like about this, as you know, where I'm a Canadian, I appreciate the fact that they spelled color the basically the non-American way. This is the way that I spell color. I put the U in armor and stuff like that as well. So when I kind of was taken aback almost by seeing an American book actually have color with the U in there. So again, that's probably a minor thing, and you know, but it was just kind of cool to see. And again, it's, you know, sort of a creature out of Lovecraft that's in there as well. And that's not the only one that's in this book. But again, just a lot of really, really cool stuff in here. So when it comes to, you know, the Alien Archive books, at this point in time, I really can't help but recommend them. I think that there's always going to be something good in here, but there is one thing that I would love to see in a future installment, and I actually want to talk about that based on the page that I'm on here now. So the Alien Archive 1 had a dragon in there. It was a blue dragon, but then it had the template graphs for all the other types of dragon, like the red, white, black, and green. Here we have the metallic dragons, and they do something very similar, but they have an adult silver dragon with all the different templates that you can apply, and then you have like an outer dragon, which is just an old dragon. So the system still uses the age categories. And now if you had the bestiary from Pathfinder, then you can use the Pathfinder legacy information in the core rulebook to update these. But I don't have that, and I would love to see a book come out, if it's in Alien Archive 3 or if it's its own separate supplement. But I would love to see the age categories, all the different age categories for the major types of dragon, so that you can actually do that work yourself. Like, for example, if I wanted, instead of an adult, if I wanted, say, a worm, great worm, ancient, any of those other age classes, I don't have access to that information at this point in time. So it's something that I would really like to see, and so it's probably my only criticism of the Alien Archive books, is that it gives you a little bit of information on the dragons, and you can do stuff with it. But it would be nice to have the full list of age categories as well for each of the different types of dragons, and then you can just sort of do whatever you want with. Or, barring that, just have a set of generic stats for dragons of each age category for metallic and chromatic, and then just allow you to apply the template graphs on top of them to customize their abilities. I'd be okay with that as well, but I would love to see more in terms of being able to work with the dragon age categories a little bit better. But still, again, really, really cool that they have this stuff in here, and who doesn't want to fight a space dragon, sort of thing, like with the Void or the Outer Dragons. So you got like Lunar Dragon, Solar Dragon, Time, Vortex, and Void, which is, again, just really, really cool. Alright, so then we have just some more things here as well. So anyway, one of the questions as I'm flipping through here that I've had people ask when it comes to the Alien Archive 2, in the video that I did the sort of the unboxing of the package sent to me by Paizo, was how much of the first Dead Suns Adventure Path monsters are in this book. And one of the fears was that it was simply just going to be a compilation of all the creatures that are in there. I can't fully answer that question at this point in time, because when it comes to the Dead Sons Adventure Path, the furthest book in the series that I have right now is book 3. However, I have ordered books 4 and 5, and when I get my ad revenue near the end of the month, I will be ordering the 6th and final book from that series. However, based off the 3rd book anyway, and I didn't really look at the 1st or 2nd because the original Alien Archive was coming out around that time anyway, so if any of those creatures were going to find their way into a hardcover, it was likely going to be the first one. But from the 3rd book, and I'll just show this right now, there are several different monsters in here, but the ghoul was the only one that actually made it into this book. So you have the Violisk, and then you have the vampire Jiangxi, and I probably pronounced that wrong, I apologize. Screesire, Screeling, the Marrow Blight, the Ghoul, and then they have the Elebrian, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, the only creature that actually appears in Alien Archive 2, and this was after Alien Archive 1 was already out, is the Ghoul. And so it's not just filled with all the creatures from the first adventure path. Now, some of the ones in later books may appear as well, and I will do a video on that once I get those later installments. But at this point in time, at least as far as up to the 3rd book goes, it's not just copying and pasting those creatures, which I do really appreciate. There's more to it than just that, meaning that if you have those campaign books, there's still going to be lots of great stuff in this for you to use, and not a ton, as far as I can tell at this point, not a ton of just like crossover or copy paste. Another cool thing in here, we have the glitch gremlin, which again, the artwork is obviously different, but I can't help but think of the AVGN episode with the glitch gremlin. So probably not necessarily reference to that, but still kind of cool anyway. And that's where that's where my mind went when I saw it. Anyway, so yeah, lots of cool stuff in here. Yeah, I really like this book. It's something that I'm looking forward to being able to use. Just looking at some again of the creatures that are in here, I could definitely see building a campaign around the Living Apocalypse, for instance. And we have the Migo, which again is another sort of Lovecraftian creature, including the Migo brain jar, called the brain cylinder here. So I mean, this was just awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I was really happy to see that. I mean, the color out of space was great, but seeing the Migos there was just incredible. And I was pretty sure that's what I thought this was when I first got the book before I opened it up, and I was blown away to see that that's actually what it was. You also have this creature here, the Nis. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that at this point in time. But this is actually the creature that's on the cover art for the Pact Worlds book. So it's actually cool to finally have the stats for that creature, because I thought that looked, like a pretty interesting monster to fight, but it wasn't in the original Alien Archive. We have good old-fashioned orcs in here. You can't go wrong with slug people. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. Got some cat folk. And again, just tons of these creatures give you stats as well to use as player characters. Now, that said, as a player, if you're a player, I really don't like the idea of players owning the monster books, especially if they bring those monster books to the table. I still recommend this book solely for Game Masters. However, if you want, you can obviously let the players know some of the things that are in there. And if you're doing like character creation, feel free to let your players look through the book to see if there's anything that they may want to play. But I still don't recommend this for player characters. We also have an assassin robot here, which I definitely want to do something with, and essentially just recreate HK-47 from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, because he was just awesome. So yeah, Soldier Wisp, Squawks, Stellar Protozoa, which is a creature large enough that it's actually used in ship battle, which is kind of cool. We got stuff on the Swarm, which I also want to build a campaign around. And actually, there was a adventure path announced. I can't remember the name of it at this point in time, but it's going to come out sort of in the summer, I think it is, which is going to revolve around the Swarm, and I can't wait for that to come out. I definitely plan on picking that up. And I really want to collect pretty much all of the adventure paths as much as I can, at least for the first little while. And then we got some Space Vermin, Vlaka, which I could almost see making like Star Fox or Star Wolf. And there we go. And we have our appendices for creatures graphs, so you can again use these to customize some creatures that you make. Environmental graphs, so basically you can sort of change how they work due to certain environments. So you have like airborne, Arctic, desert, boreal, so just really interesting stuff here as well. Radioactive, so a lot of great customization options here as well. And then of course we have a section on polymorphing, which is probably, I would say, a shortcoming of the using the 3rd edition open gaming license, because the polymorph spell in that was an absolute disaster. So I'm hoping that this will be something that we're not going to see in every book like we did in the past for another role-playing game where every book that comes out seems to have a new updated version of polymorph. I'm hoping that this is the one that just does it and gets it right. What's interesting is you have it, the spell polymorph is actually in here as well, and there's a feat for it, but the polymorph spell actually has a variant from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th level. So it's actually got different abilities based off of each of the spell slot levels that you may use for it. So I think that's actually kind of cool, and it does give you some basic forms already built in. And there's actually some pretty cool ones in here. You have things like Caloform, that's I think it's a creature from the original Alien Archive, but you also have like a blue dragon form, so it sort of shows you what abilities that you get. It also has the Baleful polymorph spell in here as well, which is something that you would do on a creature that's not beneficial to them, sort of thing. So again, just some really cool stuff in this book. So there you go. And then we just have the creatures by challenge rating, template graphs, lists, and another thing that I think is actually kind of neat in here is the vital statistics for all of the creatures that are presented in here, and Alien Archive 1. So this is essentially their height, weight, age of maturity, maximum age, just again useful information to have, and so it's cool to have that in here as well if you want to play a race from some of those other books. Including it even has the Pathfinder sort of, the Pathfinder races in here too. So you got like Drow, it doesn't have human in here, but you have like Drow, Halfling, Half-Elf, Half-Orc, I thought I saw Gnome, Dwarf, Elf, so just awesome to have that information as well. So overall, alright, so that was Alien Archive 2 for the Starfinder role-playing game, and I highly recommend this book, and it's pretty easy to do so. It's a creature catalog, it's a bestiary, it's just full of useful monsters and cool things to have to throw against your player characters. So from that perspective, it's really hard to do anything other than recommend it. I do like the fact that, based off of what I have, at the very least, it doesn't feel like it's just plucking all the creatures from their previous adventure path and just plopping into this book. Now again, time will tell on that, as I need to get the second half of that adventure series, books 4, 5, and 6, and I'll have a better idea of how many creatures are just copied over from that when I do finally get those. So I will do an update on that, but at this point, the fact that there were several creatures in this book that weren't copied over makes it so that you're not invalidated by having, all of these monsters in the Adventure Path books, only to spend money to have them all reprinted. So I think that was hopefully the way that it goes for all of them, and it does seem like a smart move. There's also a lot of great creature customization options provided in this book with the creature graph templates, which you have for things like dragons, orcs, goblinoids. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff there, but I also like the environmental ones, because I think that's something that often gets overlooked, is how the environment that the creatures live in or are born in, and that their race is typically subjected to, how it can affect how they develop. And you would think that, say, hobgoblins, for example, that are in sort of a more forested area may be different from ones that live in a more desert-like setting. So with this book, you actually have just sort of a pre-built template that allows you to quickly make those changes. So I think that that's really, really great. I also really like the fact that it has that player character information for things like height, weight, age of maturity, and maximum age. I think that that is probably an underappreciated part of this book, and it's something that I really like, the fact that it's there, and I see me wanting to get lots of use out of that. So I think it's just really, it's great information that kind of gets overlooked in other things, and you don't realize how much you kind of want to have that information available to you until it's not there. So I really like the fact that that's in there. So yeah, this is a pretty solid purchase. If you have the Starfinder role-playing game and you want to run it as a game master, this is a smart pickup. Another thing that I will say, and this may be spoiling things a little bit, because I do want to do a buyer's guide video for the Starfinder role-playing game, but another thing that I think Paizo has done a really good job of is releasing books in an order that makes sense to purchase them. For example, Alien Archive 2 is great, but I would honestly recommend getting stuff like Pact Worlds and maybe even Armory before picking this up, but they released it in an order that naturally makes sense. You had the first Alien Archive, and then you had two other voids that were kind of missing. You didn't have extensive campaign setting information like you do in Pact Worlds, and having the Armory, I think it was again another very useful book. And now that we've got sort of those out of the way, now it's time to expand the monsters further. So really, really solid book. Love the fact that there's some Lovecraftian things in there. Again, I kind of appreciated seeing the spelling of the word color based on the way that I would actually spell it. So that was kind of neat to see, especially again for an American company. It's not something that happens very often. So yeah, I highly recommend picking this up if you're a game master who wants to run the Starfinder role-playing game. I always have a hard time recommending creature books for players, because in the past I've just had too many people bring a book and just happen to be flipping through it when they encounter a creature that I try not to give them all the information on. So anyway, that aside, definitely check this out if you're into the Starfinder role-playing game. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Take care.